What's up, Anchor Peeps? Anchor Pete here, and I'm with my beautiful wife, Shari T. And today we are here to discuss the film that was just released. It is called Blackbear. It came out in 2020. You know, Shari, there's multiple black bears. Look, here's a black bear right here.
Oh, that's like a little silver bear.
Oh,
Yeah, that's Sloopy, our dog.
yeah,
She's interrupting.
yes.
Bad dog. Well, this movie stars primarily who everyone's going to recognize the name, Aubrey Plaza. She's the lead role. She carries a lot of the film. I don't know the other actors' names.
You don't remember your boyfriend?
Is it Christopher Abbott?
Christopher Abbott.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the most recognizable name to most people. I love him from Girls. I watched the show Girls on HBO, and he played Allison Williams' boyfriend in the beginning.
Yes.
A couple of seasons. His name was Charlie on the show, so I've had a crush on him for a long time.
Yes, Shari, you reminded me of that multiple times before we watched the movie, too. How she had a crush on him. It was great.
And there's sex scenes with him.
Yes, yes. So anyway, we're off to a good start here. We are going to talk about the movie, and we are going to tell you when it's time for spoilers. This is the kind of movie where I think that if you spoil like what happens in it, it's going to take a lot of the fun out of it. And so we're just going to do like a basic overview at first, and then we'll get into spoilers, but we'll give you a warning, okay?
Mm-hmm. And we could say our basic of how we feel about it.
Yeah, exactly. So for Blackbear, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's essentially three main characters at first, and Aubrey Plaza plays Allison, right? There is Blair by Sarah Gadon, and then last but not least, there's your boyfriend, Christopher Abbott, and he's playing Gabe, right?
Yeah.
And when we first meet them, Gabe and Blair are a couple in this house, and they are renting out space in this house, which is this nice big house that's by a lake, and it has this great location where you're just in the woods, and it just looks like an awesome place to stay.
Yeah, fancy secluded lake house in upstate New York.
Yeah, it's got all this like great like wood paneling, and oh man, it would be a great place to take your family, you know, or just yourself. And Allison does that. She is a filmmaker, a director, and a writer who chooses to go to their house to just kind of get the creative juices flowing.
Yeah, and chill out.
Yeah. So when she's there, she talks to both Gabe and Blair, and you're really not sure where the movie's going. And the thing is, I don't think we can tell much more, because then we'll start to get into spoilers, right?
Yeah, you can't tell much more. I will say that there are two parts to this movie.
Yes.
And the first and second part are very different. And this movie is it's kind of like a mind bender a little bit. You will be surprised and confused and wonder, wait a second, wasn't this that? And it plays with your mind a little bit. And I think it's really about blurring the lines of reality and like the creative process. I mean, because there's a lot about being a filmmaker and an actress and actor, and the whole creating a film
Process.
Yes. There's a lot about that, and it's about how that blurs with real life, I think. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Some of it, I think a lot of people find some of it very unpleasant because there is a lot of marital drama in this movie and a lot of issues with people fighting, you know, and I don't mean punching fighting. I mean blows, you know, psychological and emotional blows.
Those are the best kinds.
I don't mind that. I kind of like that sort of drama. So there's a lot of that, and it's also really surprisingly funny. I was laughing a lot.
Yes,
and it's
was.
not at all what I was expecting. You were laughing too.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So that's a good thing. It was great. It was a surprise, and I was surprised they had like such a great comedy touch added to it. And I want to say that this is a film by writer-director
Lawrence Michael Levine, who
I had never heard of.
Yeah.
And I looked into his background, and he has several films, but he usually writes and directs with his wife, whose name is Sophia Takal.
Okay, sounds good.
Takal. Sorry, I apologize immensely if I'm mispronouncing it. I just don't know.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen any of their films, but apparently they have made several films together that are about blurring or about relationships that fall apart when, you know, they're tested or challenged in some way. Relationships that seem solid, but then an outside party or situation comes along and that relationship kind of starts to crumble
Yeah.
and show cracks. And this movie is very much about that.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I was thinking that you would probably be interested in Lawrence Michael Levine's work after this. Like, you'd probably want to check out some of his other movies.
I do, and I want to
Yeah.
see. I mean, his wife, you know, and he dedicated the movie to his wife at the beginning. It says,
Yeah.
to Sophia, which is his wife, because she wasn't actually involved in this film. So I think that's interesting commentary once you know what the movie is.
Yeah. So, you know what? We're just gonna jump into spoilers right now because it sounds like we both liked it, and
I liked it a lot, right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
2 big thumbs up.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, you can go ahead and go on Amazon Prime and just watch it for $5.99 right now.
Yeah, and $5.99 is a little bit pricier than I think some people might want to pay, but yeah, it's so much less than what
Yeah.
a movie ticket would cost.
Yeah, going to like an indie movie theater. Yeah. So, okay, here we go. We're gonna talk spoilers. Shari has said, and you know, this goes along with our last episode too, where we talked about The Nest, that you know we've watched a lot of movies with marital strife where there's like conflict, right? And she also mentioned that this writer director guy, Lawrence Michael Levine, writes about movies where the marriage gets tested because of some kind of outside element. Well, starting off, Aubrey Plaza's character Allison is that outside element. When she shows up in Blair and Gabe's house, you can tell that there's already a connection between Allison and Gabe. He kind of likes her. They're flirting as they're walking into the house. She has dinner with them. And throughout the dinner, it was like this really awkward scene because every time they would have Aubrey Plaza would ask them a question and then one of them would answer. And then the other person would be like, no, that's not true. Right. And that happened 20 times at least.
Yeah, I want to point out that the wife is pregnant, which no woman, she's in her 2nd trimester, no woman really feels, I shouldn't say no woman, lots of women don't feel their best when their body is changing and growing with the baby. And in this movie, she's definitely self-conscious. So having, you know, the lanky, sexy Aubrey Plaza show up and immediately be flirting with her husband, you know, it already sets the married couple on, you know, they're already like kind of uncomfortable with each other and their issues start to shine through in that dinner. Not even in that dinner, right? When they see each other, she's taking the trash out. And he's like, why are you doing that? Yeah. I was going to do that. You shouldn't be lifting anything. And she's like, well, you forgot. And I think we all know couples like this. Maybe we are sometimes couples like this where there's this underlying tension and it just shows up without, you know, they can't seem to help it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's uncomfortable for the third party.
Yes. And so like lanky, sexy, I think that's what the adjectives you used to describe Aubrey Plaza. Mm-hmm. It doesn't help that she's like in a bathing suit like right away too.
Well, it's a lake house, so she does take a swim and she wears this great, just a little bit of fashion notice here. Like she wears a great red one piece that I really love and she wears it several times throughout the film. And anyway,
I think
it's really good. I like it.
Gabe was loving on that too, and like she kind of walks into the house at one point, like fixes her towel, and like looks up, and he's like all kind of staring at her, and she kind of smiles a little bit.
Oh yeah,
flirting going on there.
Oh, she's definitely flirting with him.
Yeah.
And what I want to say about her being the third party is that while she is uncomfortable, I think she's enjoying it. She's enjoying their marital like strife and their problems, and she's kind of sitting back and enjoying it. And she does this like thing where she doesn't take a side, but she kind of takes a side. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And I've seen this happen with people. I myself have been in a relationship where there was a third party, a girl that I was friends with and he was friends with. And this would just happen. Like this weird jealousy would go on. And because they had such a good connection, it would bother me. So anyway, this movie really spoke to me. And I love the idea of her taking a side without coming right out and saying she's taking a side, but she definitely takes the guy's side.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's this great conversation too because it's this conversation about like feminism versus traditional thinking, and he's saying like, hey, you know, I actually agree with some traditional nuclear family ideas, right? And then he says the wife never lets him talk about that kind of stuff because then all of a sudden she thinks he's a chauvinist, right? So there's like this clash, right? And you'd think that Aubrey Plaza would be on his side or on the wife's side, you know, be like, yeah, feminism, but she kind of takes the husband's side, right? And the reason why we're telling you all this stuff is because like 30 minutes of the movie or more is just this tension between the husband and the wife, and Aubrey Plaza is this outside force, right?
Yeah, but she's contributing to the tension post-show.
So at the dinner, tensions are really rising, and Aubrey Plaza is playing the character that she's been cast as multiple times, especially like her Parks and Rec character. where she's pretty quiet, but every so often she'll make these little clever kind of biting statements. And boy, does that set off the wife, right?
Yeah, and I want to say something about Aubrey Plaza's performance. She's like, I've never thought of her as sexy. I always think she's like this awkward, cute, funny girl, and most of the things she's in. In this movie, she's really sexy, and she's cunning and conniving, and she's a really good kind of femme fatale character. I was really impressed with her.
Yeah, Aubrey Plaza is really great in this role, but I mean, I think everyone's really good, and I think Christopher Abbott's good. You saw him in Girls, but then besides that, we've also seen him in It Comes at Night, and I thought he was really good in that too. He's been in some other stuff too, but essentially what happens is just that there's conflict between the husband and wife, and it ends up getting a little physical. And at one point, you have Aubrey Plaza and Christopher Abbott and Sarah Gadon all in a car driving to the emergency room because the wife has gotten hurt, and they see a bear in the road, and it leads to an accident. And this is where you have this sort of, what is going on moment in the movie, because it goes black, the screen goes black, and they say like chapter 2 or part 2.
Yeah, I think it's part 2.
And then the first part was like the bear in the road. Second one is the bear by the lake house, right? And you're like, okay, what is going on? And it essentially like resets.
Now, when we talk about the tone, it's almost like a horror movie. The music, the vibe, there's no killer or monster, but that's the vibe the filmmaker puts out there, I think.
Yeah. The first part of the movie that we just described is pretty tense in certain moments, and absolutely the music has this kind of, it's funny. I was thinking of The Dark Knight. Like the Joker kind of has this theme where it sort of almost sounds like machines, and it's kind of buzzing, and they have that just when like the husband's walking around in the house.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's definitely giving you a certain kind of feeling.
They're building tension and, atmosphere and mood and stuff. And it's like uncomfortable, you're worried what's coming next kind of thing.
Yeah. So after this whole big tense experience, they cut to a new scene, and Aubrey Plaza is once again sitting at the dock where she was sitting at the beginning of the movie. And she's from a different angle, and she gets up and leaves. And then you see that she's been being filmed this whole time. And a boat comes up with the crew that was watching her, and they had the cameraman on it. And now Gabe is no longer Blair's husband. He's the director of the movie. And Aubrey Plaza is still Allison, but roles have been changed.
She's his wife now.
Yes.
Now she's the wife. He's still the husband, but he's the director of a film. She's the lead actress in it. And the wife in the first part is now the Aubrey Plaza character.
Yeah, it's been like flipped.
Yeah. And he's kind of got a romance of some sort going on with the other actress.
Yeah. So there's this like dramatic shift in the movie where all of a sudden these roles are like flipped. The guy is still the husband, and he's still kind of involved in this sort of infidelity. But then Aubrey Plaza and Sarah Gadon are flipped, right? And
flipped to the point where they're wearing each other's clothes. The clothes that they were wearing, I really like that little touch. Aubrey Plaza's wearing the dress the woman was wearing in the first half, Sarah Gadon.
Yeah.
And the other one, they're wearing each other's clothes, and all of the insecurities of the wife in the first part are now Aubrey Plaza's insecurities. So Aubrey Plaza actually gets to play a dual role here. She's the sneaky, conniving femme fatale in the first part. In the second part, she's really insecure, and she gets really drunk, like in the second part. So she does like I said, a really great acting job. She gets wasted. Yeah,
her drunken performance, you can kind of feel how drunk she is. Like, I kept thinking that I was going to have a hangover, seeing how drunk she is. I was like, oh, please stop drinking.
It was a contagious performance.
Yeah, I'm going to be so sick. I'm going to have a huge headache. Like, please stop drinking. And
they let her.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the main like crux of that second scene is that the second part is that Gabe, as the director, is in cahoots with Blair now, and he's pretending that they're having an affair so as to make Aubrey Plaza's character Allison even more insecure. So as they're filming this movie, she's under the impression that they're having an affair.
And what we should talk about is the movie they're making. What it's about is what the first half of the movie is.
Right.
If that makes sense. That's what I mean about this being a twisty, mind-bendy thing. It's a film within a film.
Yes.
within a film, maybe. Like,
Right.
there might even be a fourth layer. I'm not sure.
If you've seen this movie, I would love to hear what you have to say about it in the comments below. Like, I think there's two ways of looking at it, right? One is that it could be that the first part of the movie is just the idea of the story, because there's 3 times where they show Aubrey Plaza sitting on the dock. It's in the very beginning of the movie, it's after she's arrived at the lake house, and then it's when the movie resets, right? And I took it as like a writer as this is her thinking about different ways to tell a story using this house. So that's one interpretation, right?
That's kind of what I thought. This is different ways of her interpreting a story. It's her writing process. And because after she sits on the dock, every time she gets up, puts on a shirt, goes inside and sits down and picks up a pen and starts to write.
Yeah.
So that's how I took it. Every like story was a different way she could tell the story. I think.
And see, like, I love that. I eat that up. It has this like framing sequence, you know, where it's her going down the dock, and it's shot the exact same way. Like, her towel is lined up with the slits in the dock, and then she like wraps it around her waist. You know, I really like that framing mechanism. As someone who likes to write and really likes the idea of like going to a place to be inspired, that's a big part of this movie. You know, and I was saying that it's like adaptation before, and maybe that the filmmaker Lawrence Michael Levine has even been at a house like this and has gone through this process of like, okay, how can we tell a movie? What would be the most interesting movie? Is it this first movie, this drama, this intense thriller? Is it this sort of comedy about filmmaking? And so
he's
like
definitely been through this process. Having written and directed several films, he's definitely done this, and with his wife. Involved. That's why I think it's real interesting that this movie is about a husband and a wife and their relationship so much, because you know, you wonder what goes on in real life behind the scenes. And this movie also has the whole second part, has the whole behind the scenes of what it's like with a cast and crew. And that's all the funny stuff. They're hilarious. Like, there's all these bit players who have little lines here and there, and you'll get a little drop of conversation and it'll just make you laugh what you heard, you know?
Everybody that's in it, like, that's the supporting person. You know, you have like the kind of like the script supervisor or whatever, who's like looking over the lines. You have the costume department. You have like basically like the person that's the second unit or whatever.
There's someone who just brings her cigarettes.
Yeah.
Or someone who like delivers the coffee. They have all these little parts, and these people almost act like a family. It's kind of a behind the scenes of what it's like to make a movie on location, I think, and kind of just have this one group of people that you see every day for like whatever, a month. And because you can tell they're all really close, they all know each other well, and I really enjoyed this part of the movie. I didn't expect it. The preview gives you very little inkling that there's going to be this kind of behind the scenes take. And it's real interesting. You know, if it's true, it looks like the lead actress almost gets treated like a queen that everyone's afraid to upset. You know, she keeps drinking because she's upset about her husband and the other woman. And no one stops her, even though she has to film a really important scene. They just keep letting her drink because no one wants to say no to her. Her husband's the only one who can kind of, as the director and her husband, I guess, can kind of tell her what to do.
And that scene, it's like 2 things are happening at once, because the husband and the actress are manipulating, you know, Aubrey Plaza, right?
Oh yeah, and that's a nasty little bit.
And it's real nasty how they do it, because they're messing with their head. They're at one point they're sitting there kind of like scheming, like, okay, why don't you go in after me, so then she'll think that we were trying to have sex or something like that. And let's mess up each other's hair. And they're kind of like getting excited about how they're going to trick her, but you know that they're like truly messing with her, and you could get that feeling of how bad she must feel. Right?
Yeah, she's really getting upset, and they know it, and they want her to feel that way because they want her to give a great performance. And I think that also is more commentary about where directors are willing to go with their. I mean, I've heard many stories from actors and actresses about what the director will do to them to get the right performance out of them. And it's borderline abusive.
And then so simultaneously while that's happening, you also have all these hijinks with the crew members, and you know, some of them are high, and like one of them ate some bad tilapia for lunch, and so she has like explosive diarrhea.
I'll never think of tilapia the same way.
And then there's this sort of this goof where you know, various people have like cups of coffee and the coffee's too hot when they all drink it. And then there's multiple times where people bump into people with coffee and it spills on them. And it's real funny.
Yeah, don't give like everything away. Like, let's leave
We'll
some
see
of
the
it.
movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying it'll be like you'll be surprised how enjoyable all the chaos with the crew is. And I really, it made me want to go work on a set.
Yeah, seriously. And so the movie ends with them finishing the scene, but then it kind of parallels the end of the first part where, you know, the husband and wife get, you know, the husband gets caught again by the wife, you know. So it has this weird kind of cycle where it's repeating itself, and then it starts once again with Aubrey Plaza on the dock. She goes in, she goes to write, and then she looks up at the camera and credits roll, right? So I don't know. I think it was pretty much a take on the creative process and how you could, many different ways you could use a place or a setting or tell a story.
It was that, and it was also like a lot of commentary on husbands and wives, I think.
Yeah.
And the dynamics of how close are people really? You think you're really close to this person, and then this, like I said, third party comes in, and how much can they make you fall apart? Yeah,
because we're sitting here discussing the actual things that happen in the movie and the funny things, but the actual dialogue is great too. I actually really enjoyed the movie. If you haven't seen it, but you've stayed through this whole review, I really recommend watching it, especially before 2020, because it probably make one of your best of 2020 lists.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like buzzy enough to get any Oscar notice, but I think Aubrey Plaza is as good as anyone I've seen in any movie, and like I said, such a surprise. I thought she was such a surprise. I didn't know she could be a femme fatale.
Yeah, you know, if you're watching all these Anchorpete videos, then you could probably see Carrie Coon in The Nest and see Aubrey Plaza in this, and those are probably two actresses that are going to be nominated for either Best Actress or Best Supporting Actress.
Or they should.
Yeah, if they're not, that's, boy. I mean,
the Oscar snubs, though, you know, they're not always right.
Yeah. So that, once again, is a review from Anchorpete and Shari T. Shari and I have 2 more videos, I think, before the end of the year. And so we hope that you can stay on the Anchorpete channel. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and we will see you guys real soon.
Bye.